In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Glory to Jesus Christ. Glory to Christ. Beloved, in the summer of 1944, there was a woman who was very sick. She actually was suffering from cancer quite badly. And so they took her into the hospital. This was somewhere on the East Coast, maybe Maryland, maybe Maine, I don't remember. And they took her in and they basically had to perform surgery to cut out a tumor. So this woman was under severe and intense anesthesia. So she was not in her right mind. And as she was coming out of the surgery, they were looking at her. She seemed to be calm. Everything seemed to be well. And all of a sudden, the woman sat up in her bed and she shouted the name of her son. And she said, "Jimmy, Doc." No one knew what that meant. That's anesthesia talking. It doesn't matter. A few months later, they received a letter from their son Jimmy, who was a Marine on the island of Guam. And he said that one night he had to pull guard duty on the perimeter of their position, which means he had to look into the jungle. And he was watching very keenly because every night they would be attacked, every night. And so he was watching very carefully, staring into deep jungle. And all of a sudden, as he was standing there watching, he heard this woman's voice tear through the jungle. And the voice seemed to say that he should duck. And he did. And the moment that he did, a bullet smacked the top of his helmet. And had he not ducked, it would have hit him between the eyes. And I told this story to my wife, and she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, this is what I think. I think this woman was a very deep woman of prayer. And she prayed a lot for her son. She prayed so much for him all the time that God allowed her to help her son in his time of tremendous need, when her son was in a very dangerous place." And it was so. This woman saved her son. This mother, through God's mercy, saved her son. That same summer, there was a young man climbing into an airplane. He was a paratrooper. He would jump into Normandy. And they were very pensive because they had never seen action before. And they're flying over and they hear the thrum of the engines and everyone's kind of pensive. And so the young man wants to look at his parachute. So he looks at the parachute. Not the inside of it, but the outside. On the outside there was a stamp that said which company had packed his chute. And under that stamp there was an initial saying who had inspected the chute. And he looked and he cracked a smile. The company was the company his mom worked for that had packed the chute. He looked at the initials and he started laughing. They were his mother's initials. And he turned to the men in the airplane and he said, "Boys," he said, "I don't know if your chutes will open, but I know mine will." And there was a war correspondent on their plane. And he turned and he said, "How do you know that?" And he said, "Because my mom inspected my chute and she does good work. I'll be okay. I'll be just fine." And indeed, this young man was fine. He jumped that night and he survived. I'll tell you the truth, beloved, many men jumped too low that night. Their chutes opened and they hit the ground and they didn't live. Others died when their planes caught fire, but God loves us much. And at that time, he favored our nation greatly. And so most chutes, through his mercy and through the prayers of moms everywhere, opened. And most men landed, and they did their work. I'll tell you one more story about moms and soldiers. There was a young Russian soldier who had to go to the front during the First World War. And this poor man was an atheist. Russia had so many problems even before the revolution. This man worked in a factory and he said, I learned to despise God. I learned to reject him. I hated religious things. And so he was called up to go to the front. And as he went, his mom, who was a devout woman, took her own cross off, because he wouldn't wear a cross. She took her own cross off, she crossed him with it, and she put it around his neck, and he was just kind of like, "Ugh, Mom, no." And he went to the front, and when they got into action, every soldier pulled out his cross and kissed it. And he was like, "Oh my goodness, I better do the same, not because I believe, but because I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look impious." And so he did. He pulled his cross out, hung it around his neck, and kissed it, like everyone else did, but not out of belief, because he didn't want to look bad. And so he did this. And during the battle, he suddenly took a great hit, just a great blow, and was knocked to the ground. He was hit so badly that he lost consciousness, and he would fade in and out of consciousness. He woke up to the sound of Polish voices, which is not good, because the Poles hate Russians very much. And as he woke up, he heard these voices speaking, and one of them said, "This one is alive. Put your bayonet through him now." The other Pole said, "I can't. He wears a cross. I won't murder a Christian. I can't do it. Spare him." And so they did. And he passed out of consciousness again. And he woke up and he was in a field hospital because his army had counterattacked and retaken the trench. And he was saved by his brothers, who found out that he was alive. And so the next voice he heard was the voice of the surgeon standing over him, and he said, "Son," he said, "you should do prostrations to the cross for the rest of your life." The cross stopped the bullet. The bullet that hit you hit the cross and bounced off, and it would have killed you. It would have gone right through your heart, son, but you survived. And the man basically realized, he said, oh my goodness, he said, there's two things I believe in now. I believe in the Lord's cross, and I believe in maternal blessings. They actually carry great power. And so he said, okay, and he changed his life. Beloved, the love of mothers is so intense. If earthly mothers love so much, and they yield so much carnal help to us, so much temporal help to us, what can a spiritual mother bring to us? And what kind of protection can she give to us? The Lord knows we need mothers, and the Lord knows we need a heavenly mother. If we need an earthly mother to bring us into the world, we need a heavenly mother to bring us into heaven. And that's why he sent us the Theotokos. That's why he called his mother. And that's why when John was at the foot of the cross, Christ said to John, son, behold your mother. Mother, behold your son. At that moment, every Christian, every man who believes like John does, everyone who loves Christ the way John does, she is now his mom, or her mom. She's become the mother of people. Beloved, mothers don't just help people in war. Sometimes mothers make war, honestly. They make war sometimes. I watched this clip one time. Again, some people have heard me tell this story because it was remarkable. This was from Bangkok, and this was a feral hen who had a brood of chicks. It's like Bangkok, but it's not clean. People, there's feral chickens running through the city, and they're nesting wherever they can nest. And so this hen had this brood of little chicks in this alley. And the film shows a cobra slither into the alley. A huge one. And this hen has like 7, 8 chicks. And people call cowards chickens. They mock hens all the time. But this hen fought this thing so intensely. In fact, this hen was amazing. She attacked this cobra, and as she was attacking, she took her wing and she swept all her brood behind her. And she kept attacking until he was in the alley. He had his back to the alley, she had her back to the street, and they escaped. And this massive cobra got nothing. He captured nothing. Not a single chick did he get. And we are like chicks, beloved. We are helpless. Demons are like cobras. We're like little chicks. We have no strength, none. But this mother saved everything. She swept them all away. All the chicks. This cobra looked like the biggest fool there has ever been. So powerful, so much muscle, yet he got nothing. He couldn't even score a little chick. I'm from Montana, and in Montana we have grizzly bears, and we're famous for them, or infamous. We also have moose. And at Lake McDonald, under the chalet, there was actually a big cow moose with her 2 calves. And this bear came upon them. This big bear came upon them. And this bear was looking at the calves. You can just see he was so hungry. He just wanted to devour these things so badly. He wanted to eat them, just like Satan wants to eat you. Just like he wants to devour you so much. This cow is not a bull, and she doesn't have antlers. But she's big. And she drove that bear out of there. She charged him several times until he ran. In fact, she charged him once. He pulled people back, but he kept watching because he's so hungry, so desirous for these little calves that he could see. And that was still too close, so she charged him again until he left. Such is it with mothers, beloved. The mother of God is not a hen, nor is she a moose. She's something far greater, beloved. She's like a lioness. The demons are like little jackals. Jackals and lions never share the same space. They don't. If there's a kill, the jackal will wait a long time, and maybe after the lion leaves, he'll suck on a bone, but he won't come there while she's there. He won't go there. They just won't. They won't do it. So if the mother of God occupies a space, whoever else is there leaves. They will leave that space. They won't occupy the same space as her. They won't. The mother of God is so powerful, beloved, so powerful. Just the sound of her voice, and our enemies leave. They literally do, whether they're earthly, whether they are spiritual, they depart. One time, the army of Tamerlane is an evil man, but really bad. Honestly, there's a lot of modern people who say that Tamerlane killed so many people that he altered the climate. I'm not sure if that's true, but he killed so many people that areas were left desolate. And Tamerlane was marching on Moscow. This is a true story. He marched on Moscow, and he was closing in on it. And he had a dream one night, and in this dream there was a splendid woman who came up to him, and she was very fearsome and terrible looking, very intense. And behind her was a whole bunch of elders wearing white, and they all had staffs in their hand. And they shook him at Tamerlane, saying, "If you come near this city, we will do horrible things to you. Like we will do horrendous things to you. Don't you ever come near this city." And Tamerlane was so affected by this dream that his army turned around and left. And this is historical fact. He marched on Moscow and then he left. We don't really know why. Why did he turn around? He could have burned the city, but he turned around. Because she stopped him. She literally stopped him. The power of the Mother of God is so great, and her prayers are so powerful. In fact, sometimes, beloved, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wonder almost if she's more our mother than she is Christ. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. It sounds blasphemous. But many saints have heard dialogues where some sinner will pray to Christ. He'll say, or he'll pray to the Mother of God. He'll say, "I'm a sinner, please forgive me." And the Mother of God will go to her son and she'll say, "Son, have mercy upon the sinner." And Christ will say, "Mother, do you know what he does to me? Do you know that this man crucifies me anew each day? And you want me to have mercy on him?" And she says, "Yes, have mercy on him." And Christ will literally say, okay, I will. Because as you ask me, I will do it. I will have mercy on this man. Even though he crucifies me anew each day with his dreadful iniquities, I will have mercy. In fact, there's a great elder in Romania, Elder Arsenie Boca, and he became a celibate deacon. And he helped Father Dumitru Stanilaia translate the Philokalia into Romanian. And so he had to go to Mount Athos. And he was a celibate deacon. He wasn't a monk, but he was celibate. And he went up to Mount Athos, and he stayed at a monastery where they have the arm of St. John the Baptist, encased in gold. And he said, I want to become a monk. This is my path. I have to take it. And while he's up there, he began to pray, saying, I want to be a monk. But he was a really wise man. And what he realized was that you don't go far in the spiritual life without a good guide, a strong guide. And so he turned and he prayed to Christ constantly. He said, Lord, send me a spiritual father. Lord, send me a spiritual father. Lord, help me to find a guide to lead me in the way of salvation. I want to become a real monk, not something weak, but something real. And then he prayed, nothing happened. And suddenly he realized, the Lord has a mother. I'll ask her. And he turned to the Mother of God and he said, please, I want to have a spiritual father. I want to be saved. I want to be saved. And what happened? She immediately came to him. She took him up to Mount Athos, the top of the mountain. And she brought a saint down from heaven. She said, teach him everything. And the disciples of Elder Arsenia say that this was St. Seraphim of Sorrow, who had died 200 years before. So this is like in the 1930s this happens. And St. Seraphim died in the 1830s. And so, or 100 years before. And St. Seraphim came down and he taught him everything. And when this elder went home, he went home with clairvoyance. He was clairvoyant from that day on. And all the people in Romania know it because he ministered so intensely to the people. In fact, Elder Arsenia says this. He says there are times in which God will not hear you, either because you've sinned and offended him, or because he wants to test your fortitude. He won't listen to you. He'll close his ears to you and not listen for a while. And he says sometimes the saints will shut their ears to you too, maybe because you've offended them or because they're also testing you. But the elder, this same elder who received this guidance from heaven, he said, but the Mother of God will never shut her ears to you. She will never close her ears to you. She will always answer. Always she will. She always will. And so, beloved, some people, they don't have moms. They didn't. Either their mothers died when they were young, or they left them, or their mothers were cruel and cold and harsh. Not everyone had the benefit of a mother. And not everyone has a spiritual mother either. In fact, most don't. We need both. But if the first was lacking, the Mother of God will fill that role too. She truly will. She'll become your mother if you need her to be. In fact, you need her to be your mother. And every mom should say, I want my child to have two moms, me and the Mother of God. That's what every mom should say. God loves people so much. She loves people so much that she will actually go to Christ and plead with him in ways that are incredibly hard. Because she's his mother. She knows she watched this. And yet she will plead against this for the sinner. Christ will say, you saw the cross, you saw what I suffered, and this man offends me every day anew. Yet she will say, please, son. So that's why I say to you, sometimes I wonder if she's more our mother than his. Because she will literally plead with him for us, even though we are against him much of the time. And she watched this. The Mother of God didn't suffer in childbearing, beloved. She suffered at this moment. Her birth pangs were at this moment, actually. It was when she suffered for her son. And yet, despite those sufferings, she will protect us with absolute ferocity. The nations that make her the protector, they are defended. They truly are. When I was in Romania, I saw this beautiful icon frescoed on the outside of a church, and it basically showed the nation of Romania, like the borderline. And it was a fortress, like a fort. You know what I mean? Like the border was made of these walls, right? As if Romania was this castle. And on every side were enemies attacking. Every side. Muslims, communists, all kinds of people were attacking this place. But it said the Mother of God was shielding it. She was shielding the country from continuous attacks, and was attacked from every side. And yet it held, it withstood, it survived, because she prevails always. Beloved, don't put your trust in anything less than her. Like St. Joseph the Hesychist, when he was struggling so intensely, he was called up to heaven. He was brought before her, and she said, or brought before a great icon of her that was in heaven. And literally she said to him, put your trust in me from now on. Trust in me from now on. I'll help you always. St. Joseph, remember this. And so everywhere he went, he would always trust in her, and she would always deliver for him. Always. She would always deliver. And she will deliver for you, beloved, if you pray to her. Beloved, pray to her all the time. If you can, read the Activist every day. If you cannot do this, then read a part of it. If you can't read the Activist, do 25 prostrations for it each day. Do something. Because once you start doing this, things begin to change. Many fathers say this. Many fathers say, if you say the Activist constantly, what happens? Your life begins to change. She begins to work upon you, and you begin to receive help from her in an immense way. Beloved, put your trust in her. She will always help you.